What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and a little bit more for Birthright here with the last video for the Brecht domain expansion, and that is taking a look at the adventure sites section at the end here. This gives us some good ideas on setting up adventure hooks and plots, not necessarily tied to specific countries, but just some of the wilderness locations, other mysteries, rumors, and folklore, mythology, and things like that that can create for some creative ground, or serve for some creative ground for adventures and other things there to incorporate some of the more mysterious areas. So the big one, of course, which we'll cover a little bit more when we actually get to the Anshe themselves, and the Kraken, is the Kraken Tower, which is that big island that's in the center of the bay, which again doesn't count as a domain, hence no domain video on it, but there are just so many interesting things, and some of them, again, are tied to certain Anshe themselves, so like the Hag, the Island Mage, the Pirate Queen, Swordhawk, others that we've all covered now in this grand tour of the Brecht realm. So there's so much fertile ground there with a lot of the known Anshe. But as far as just purely mysterious locations go, the Kraken Tower is fantastic, and the Kraken is one of the major Anshe, although not one that has any designs necessarily on building a surface realm or really engaging with any of the human or humanoid domains. So it's really just claimed this area for itself. So there's a lot of great folklore that goes along with that, and this is a way to also include the Sahagin in the Birthright campaign. So they're a little modified from the typical ones found in the other D&D worlds. So, and the arrival of the Kraken goes back to some of the sort of prehistory here, where the Sahagin once had a major civilization with tons of underwater cities and things like that. But then as they kind of retreated and grouped into the Great Bay here, they kind of gradually went into this period of decline. They fought a lot of the dwarves on the surface, then were beaten back. But then with the arrival of the Kraken, as in the Anshe, they treated it essentially as a deity and began worshiping it. But rather than get rewarded for that, the Kraken basically just destroyed what was left of their civilization, and they've kind of reverted to a more primitive feral version of the classic sort of fishman or Sahagin that we typically get in D&D campaigns. So as it mentions here, if we just focus in a little bit on this area, so they're kind of blackish green, scaly, of course, gray fins and stomachs, and just kind of, again, as it mentions here, they're just devolved into just like base level primitive creatures now that, again, just worship the Kraken. Don't really get much out of it. It's more of a one-sided thing. The Kraken gets this sort of protective bubble wrap of all these Sahagin that kind of serve to keep would-be curious adventurers and other parties away, and really doesn't have to do much in return, and basically gets sort of all of its needs taken care of as far as, well, hey, constant supply of food. If anything ever steps out of line, certainly the Kraken can throw its literal weight around on that. But the island itself, there's so many rumors, right? It's not one that is really explored by adventurers. Those that do come back, if they even survive or return, they're labeled as madmen, often going crazy by their experiences. A lot of, with the naval aspect of the Brecht campaign, there's so much that we can play on as far as like old sailors rumors and things like that, bedtime stories, ghost stories, stuff like that. But there's always rumors of people seeing movement and stuff on the island, even the occasional fire or something. But the island then, as it mentions, also tends to disappear in some of the stormier seasons, or if a fog covers the bay, the horror of accidentally maybe landing on that island and then encountering and maybe being attacked by the Sahagin, maybe even being dragged down to the sort of caverns and sort of underwater temples and stuff like that there. So you can almost play with a little bit of like, if you're familiar with like the Cthulhu mythos and stuff like that, you can kind of incorporate some of these like sort of like horror themed things in there, and some of the sort of mysteries of the deep. So that is one fun aspect, of course. And since it kind of is centrally located in the Brecht setting, any coastal realm really can interact with that in different ways. And a great sort of mystery too. If a lot of ships start disappearing and things like that, certainly there's any number of realms that might be the culprit, like some of the pirate realms. But what if it's something beyond that, and the investigation does take the PCs out to the Krakenstower for an actual exploration. So there's a lot of fun hooks there, and maybe working their way into the caverns, fighting off this horde of Sahagan, and going down below, just to their horror to find out that, oh no, the Kraken is real, very real, very big too, and maybe the PC's intrusion fully wakes it up and actually goes on a rampage across the Great Bay, and things like that cause like a major sort of world event. That could be something too, where maybe even you see that it attacks even, or maybe like other Anshe get involved as well, and maybe fighting against it. So there's going to be some crazy wild possibilities with that. So that's one area. And again, they give you quite a bit of exposition here in the book too. So basically like 3 whole pages on that. Even like, again, there's like a temple devoted to that by the Sahagan. So, but you could work into that some other, maybe a cult springs up that starts worshiping the Kraken as well. And then that gradually leads to the Sahagan and other things like that. So again, very Cthulhu-esque things that we could incorporate there. So, and again, it gives you a little bit of background too on sort of how to organize as far as the DMs go, what quality, quantity, and types of Sahagan that you would encounter all the way through priests and other things like that. But then it does give us a little bit more on Black Ice Bay, and this is a one where it's fertile ground. There's not too much in the descriptions initially provided with some of the realms that border in and around here, but you have all kinds of things. And when we covered Drakian Ward, that's kind of where they got into some of that. But so there's this great white sort of northern frozen frontier with all kinds of stuff out on the glaciers and that endless expanse of just ice and snow. So there's and they mentioned the Klessberg initially. So there's all kinds of dangers there, and this whole section kind of prefaces to there's anything from things we could throw at beginning level adventurers, first few levels, all the way up into the higher tiers, certainly like actually directly trying to deal with the Kraken, all the way through some of these things of the Klessberg as well. So, and just a couple other of these monsters. So you got Selkies, Sirens, giant squids, and sea lions as well. But getting into the Klessberg here, you got polar bears and some of the larger ones there. And then even elephants and mammoths out there. Ice ghouls, frightening one here as well. So, and again, anything with undead, we can certainly tease interactions with the shadow world as well. So we've got that. Ice giants, of course, always nasty to deal with there. And even potentially, as I mentioned here, a few Ettins may live with them. But nobody knows exactly how they fit into the ice giant society. But as it mentions here, during particularly bitter winters, could be found in virtually all the Brecht realms. So even further south, which would be just something horribly frightening for the realms that are a little bit more located in the southern areas of the Brecht areas. So fun stuff there. Orogs, of course, we know they are all over the place and an ever-present danger. So just a little bit more exposition on those there, but think of that more, in this frozen climate, that kind of setting for them. So maybe even some more surface activity than they would normally have here. So as a sense, they're always at war with everybody, right? So at war with the ice giants, humans, elves, and even each other. They surpass their southern cousins in brutality and desperate strength, as if that were, possible. But so their chaotic nature offsets their increased abilities. So most are 4 or 5 hit dice, and then looking like with wolf skins, bear skins, stone hammers, captured steel weaponry. So a little more primitive, but a little more vicious at the same time. But then we get into some of the more off the wall enemies here. So white puddings. I always thought this one was an interesting one. So this one we'll actually read through. So though not intelligent, white puddings present a danger that cannot be overstated. Blending perfectly with the snow and ice of the Klessberg, a white pudding traps its victims easily and consumes them quickly. So while orogs of the Klessberg tend to be the pudding's most common prey, some adventurers tell tales of orogs using these creatures as camp guards. Somehow these orogs capture the white puddings, place them in specifically prepared areas, and feed them enough to keep them in place. So yeah, so of all the other dangers you got to worry about between giants and natural enemies through the supernatural with like the ice ghouls and undead and stuff like that, you got this to deal with as well. But it gets more frightening too. Ice trolls. So smaller and more intelligent than their southern cousins. They are fortunately not very numerous, but so it should be a special type of encounter that players would get threatened with. So having abandoned their chaotic nature in order to hunt in packs, that's frightening. The ice trolls can now threaten any human orog or even ice giant settlement. They breed slowly, which is fortunate. Now, legend has it the ice trolls once roamed as far south as Reslev and Ravinodensk, but the armies of Vosgard tried to exterminate them utterly and nearly succeeded, but nearly is not enough. Yeah, winter wolves as well, so that's an interesting one there. But nothing too crazy that we have to deal with for that right now. Yeti, though, they've incorporated those in there. So again, a lot of fertile things you can certainly, if you want to customize, maybe include or exclude a few things that are listed here. But as it mentions here, these legendary snow apes do exist. Occasionally captured as novelties and brought into Drakenward's court or as far south as Gravesmuhl. They don't survive well in captivity. In the glacial regions of the north, they live in small clans and packs, spending most of their time avoiding contact with the other species. But since Voss and Brecht hunters have captured or killed many of them, they react to explorers and trespassers violently. So there's not going to be any chance for dialogue there. They have been known, however, to show compassion towards lost or stranded humans, bringing them food and using their crude knowledge of healing to keep the unfortunate alive. So again, could be a tale of two extremes there. Maybe the PCs encounter ones that are more violent. Maybe if the PCs do get lost, could be something where they are shown this random act of kindness. But maybe there could be friendlier tribes, more violent sort of kill on or attack on sight type of tribes. So up to the DM's discretion there. So, and as I like the bit that it mentions at the end here, a human explorer might walk for days along the Klessberg and not see another living thing, or they might encounter animals or intelligent and dangerous creatures without warning. So again, the Great White Frozen North here with, again, just a big variety of things that we could throw at the players. But that just kind of wraps things up for sort of the wilderness areas and some of the less explored areas of the Brecht territories. Hope you guys enjoyed all the looks at all things of the Brecht expansion for Birthright. We'll be moving on to the Voss territories next. That was voted on our Patreon. If you guys want to influence the direction of some of the other content that's coming in the pipeline for Birthright and other D&D things, head over to our Patreon there. We got multiple different tiers, including even a free one. Be sure to check that out, guys. Thanks for sticking to the end on this one. It's a long one, but we'll have more Birthright for you soon.